Howzit here, and welcome to my camera comparison with the all-new Xiaomi 12 Pro and its rear 50 megapixel triple camera array. And this is the model being sold in China. The global version has not been released yet, and it is running MiUI 13. And if you're interested in the exact build number, I'll have it in the description below, but it has received 2 different system updates since I got the device a few days ago. And I'm putting it up against the Google Pixel 6 Pro with its rear 50 megapixel camera sensor. That is the Samsung GN1, which is pretty much tried and true at this point. It's performing great in previous camera comparisons. So we'll see how it goes up against Xiaomi's first major release of the year. And this year, Xiaomi has decided to go away from its Samsung GN2 sensor from the Xiaomi 11 Pro and Ultra of last year, which is a much larger sensor than even the GN1 that's on the Pixel 6 Pro. This year they've gone with a Sony IMX707, and so far it's been performing pretty well, but we'll see if the change is going to pay off here and if the software image processing is going to make up for that deficit in the hardware change there. So like I always do, I'm going to take a bunch of photos and videos and show you them in both good and low light conditions, so you can decide for yourself which of these 2 camera systems might be best for you. So check out all the photos and videos, and I'll come back at the end and let you know what I think. Evan, here's a video test from the rear-facing cameras on the Xiaomi 12 and Google Pixel 6 Pro. As you can see, they're both recording from the rear-facing cameras. And I'm starting out with the ultra-wide-angle lens on each at 4K, 30 frames per second. And so let's just pan around to give you a feel for how these ultra-wide-angle cameras compare here in this particular setting. You can check out the color reproduction between all the blues and the greens, and how it adjusts for the exposure as I pan back up into that sky right there. So let's go ahead and move into the main lens right now. So 1x tap on the Pixel, so that pop in. And then on Xiaomi, it's more of a slider, so let's go ahead and move that in. And you can actually see it here. This is about 0.9, and when I tap into the next one, you'll see it lock in. So there you go. You can see it kind of lock in and change a little bit. So now it's the main lens on each. And we'll do the same thing and pan around so you get a feel for how these main cameras sensors compare here in this setting. As you pan over here into the trees, you saw lift the shadow up over there. And you can see what it looks like here with those clouds and what kind of definition you're getting out of that. If we pan over here to the right, we'll test out the zoom on the cell tower there. So 2x digital here on the Pixel, and let's go to 2x optical telephoto lens on the Xiaomi. And if we move in here, you'll see it click in. So the next click, you'll see it shift right there. You just saw it shift into telephoto, so it got a little bit darker actually. And then let's go ahead and move into 4x optical on the Pixel. You see it shift into there on the Pixel. So now we're in the telephoto lens on the Pixel, and we'll move into a 4x digital equivalent here on the Xiaomi. Right there. So that's 4x digital on the Xiaomi, 4x optical on the Pixel. And then let's go ahead and move in a little bit farther on the Xiaomi. Maybe let's see if we can get to more of a maybe 10x digital here. And it's more of a pinch to zoom, so it's much slower unfortunately here, but bear with me. And let's go here, get into about 10x digital here on the Xiaomi 12. And then let's move into a roughly a 12x here. Let's get there, 10x there on the Pixel. So 10x digital zoom on each, and it's looking a little bit clearer here on the Pixel, a little bit more stable actually. And let's go to the max zoom on each. So this should be about 16x I think, or 15x there on the Xiaomi, 15x digital on Xiaomi, and we should be able to go to a, let's actually go to a 15x equivalent on the Pixel. You can see they're side by side. Again, still clearer and more stable on the Pixel, or at least in the viewfinder here. We go to max 20x digital there on the Pixel, so that's max zoom range on each right now. And let's back that out, 1x tap on the Pixel, and we have to slide this back out here on the Xiaomi. And you see it click back in right there. And let's go ahead and test autofocus here on the post with the Xiaomi 12. Really snappy autofocus there and refocus away. So autofocus is really snappy here on the Xiaomi 12. And let's do that one more time. And now let's go with the Pixel 6 Pro. And it actually focused in pretty good. Sometimes the focusing can be a little bit slower on the Pixel, but it's doing pretty good here. There we go, snaps right in. So pretty good autofocus here on each right now, and pretty nice shallow that the field of natural background blur on each. Let's go ahead and walk down the stairs to test stabilization here. So you can see what that looks like side by side in 4K on both phones as we get through the path here. And we'll just go into a jog to try to stress the stabilization a bit. And we'll pull up here and pan up into the sky so you can see how it handles the exposure with the changing light. So now we have some stabilization modes here on the Xiaomi. We have steady video and active stabilization on the Pixel 6 Pro. So I'll just run to try to stress these stabilization modes out and see how they compare. Hi everyone, so this is going to be a front-facing camera test on the Xiaomi 12 and Google Pixel 6 Pro. You can see they're both recording from the front-facing cameras right now at their max resolution and frame rates, which is 1080p 60 frames per second on the Xiaomi 12 and 4K 30 frames per second on the Pixel 6 Pro. And so I'm starting out at my usual testing spot outdoors in some even light out here, so you can see how these front-facing cameras perform to their max ability, the best possible image quality without any kind of harsh light. If I step more into this way, now the sun will be more directly on me. You see more shadows on my face. And what it's doing with exposure here. My skin tones, at least in the viewfinder, look more natural or true to life on the Pixel right now, and kind of overexposing it a little bit more on the Xiaomi. And I'll pan around so you can see overall what the changing light conditions now that the sun is directly behind me, what that does to the overall video quality and exposure. Obviously, that's going to be a very tough situation there for any camera. And then we'll move this way and start walking to test the stabilization here on both of these front-facing cameras. So let me know what you think about the front-facing cameras between the Xiaomi 12 and Pixel 6 Pro. Everyone, so here's a low light video test on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and Pixel 6 Pro. This is the ultra wide angle lens on each to start at 4K 30 frames per second. So you can see how these ultra wide angle cameras compare side by side. And obviously the Xiaomi 12 Pro has the wider field of view. It can fit more into the frame here. And so let's go ahead and shift into the main lens now. On the Xiaomi it's more of a pinch to zoom. So let's move in there and you'll start to see it pop in onto the main lens. So this is about 0.8. Let's go to 0.9 and then 0.1. You can see there pop in right there. So let's get back to this is 0.9 and then 0.1, so you can see it lock in there and change the lenses. And so let's go tap to zoom on the Pixel. So there you go, main lens on each right now, and they're both much brighter than what the ultra wide angle lens was showing. You can see there's much clearer tree definition against that skyline right there. It's much more dark, much more blending in with that skyline on the ultra wide. We'll pan around here to give you a feel for how these main lenses compare side by side. You can see the Xiaomi's flaring out that bright street light a little bit more than the Pixel right now. And then let's go ahead and actually pan over this way now. We'll start walking to test stabilization, as well as to move over to a much more challenging lighting situation. Obviously that was some pretty good light back there, and we're going to move into a much darker area to see how these cameras perform in a little bit less light. And obviously as we walk, pay attention to the stabilization, as well as noticing any kind of micro jitters that tends to happen to the stabilization and low light like this. And as we round the corner, it's getting much darker, but in the viewfinder, both of these phones are definitely brightening up the scene a lot more than what I'm seeing with my own eyes. A little bit more on the Xiaomi, but they're both introducing some noise to do this. And as we pan up into the night sky, there is some light pollution and some clouds, so you can see that there, and there is some good amount of noise right now. You can see that plane actually in the clouds. That's what that is, that light source there. And then let's go ahead and pan this way into the darker alleyway. A little bit mixed lighting situation with that darker alleyway with some of the accent lights off the building there. You can see how these two cameras are handling that right now. And so there you go, there is a 4K video test on both phones. Alright, so here's some low light video from the front facing cameras on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and Google Pixel 6 Pro. They're both recording their highest resolutions, which is 1080p on the Xiaomi, and that's at 30 frames per second. It can record at 60 frames, but it's much darker in low light if you do that. And the Pixel 6 Pro is at 4K 30 frames per second. And from what I can see, the Pixel is still really grainy here in low light, and that does not seem to be fixed with this January update. It is running the latest January 2022 update, and it is still very grainy and low light from the front facing camera video for some reason. But you can see here I'm starting out my usual testing spot to give you an idea for how these front facing cameras can do in some pretty ideal light out here with all this light around me. You can see there how they're doing with that with their really bright street light behind me. But anyway, let's go ahead and start walking and we can test stabilization and see what this looks like side by side. There is definitely more of a crop on the Xiaomi than there is on the Pixel. You can fit more in the frame on the Pixel right now, even when they're both stabilized like this. And I'll be walking by a fountain to my right, so you can hear the sound of that background noise. I do have the speech enhancement on the Pixel, so pay attention to the audio and how that sounds compared to the Xiaomi 12 Pro. And we'll pan around, so you can see all the really bright street lights behind me. And they're actually controlling those lights pretty well on both of these front-facing cameras, and there's just a ton of noise still on the Pixel here. Let's walk back here to a much darker area. So you So you can see what this looks like in some more challenging light here side by side. And as expected, they're both trying to brighten this up. It's not this bright from what I'm seeing in my own eyes right in this spot. But again, Pixel really, really grainy. And the Xiaomi is kind of, I don't know, the colors are looking a little bit off here to me, at least in the viewfinder. So, but anyway, I think that's going to call it for this camera comparison between the Xiaomi 12 Pro and Pixel 6 Pro. Do let me know what you thought about how each of these phones performed here. And my quick summation is I'm not as prone to shooting a lot of video, and I'm not sensitive to the video quality. So that's going to be up to you. But for photos, I really still like shooting with the Pixel. I like the results that I'm getting from the Pixel more than the 12 Pro. I think there's just a lot more detail. And I like how the photos come out more often than not on the Pixel, although the 12 Pro did look very good. So I think it's just going to come down to personal preferences always and what you like to see, what image processing you like to see. And my slant is still towards the Pixel here. So, but do let me know, drop me a comment and let me know which one you thought was better and why. Also, if you got any other questions about either of these two devices, especially the new Xiaomi 12 Pro, I'm happy to answer what I can. And as always, thanks for watching.